Hey, Hollow Dwellers, you must have noticed that I have messed up every single one of my previous videos. Well, what can I say? My luck has been really bad recently. So, shall we start? So, welcome to Zester's Hollow, your welcoming pit stop of every gaming, psychology, and science with a splinter of philosophy. So, to start with, have you ever wondered what and why does those pixelated art styles of 80s and 90s, those retro games, hold held in your heart so deeply that you cannot forget them? It's like they're etched into your memory as something legendary. But today's day and age hyper-realistic cutscenes and graphics, and whenever they play, you're mid cutscene, you're scrolling the TikTok, right? But why is it? If you want to know, then let's buckle up. We are talking about the fun factor that comes from timeless nostalgia bombs and brain fueled imagination. Something that is independent of how much budget a dev has. It's way better to see a tiny plumber dodging fireballs and like this, right? Than seeing a hyper realistic graphics. There's something really amazing about the pixels that exist in there. Now, flashback to a AAA game of day now and now's day and age. So, in these games, you can even notice the coffee plate of a character. But the question is, what am I doing seeing these coffee plates? Well, I've been knee deep on this topic for a while working on the projects of my own on the side. Well, let me tell you this: if what pixels of the past has shown us, then these pixels would come back like a proper cycle. Stuck around for the roast that I'm going to do and the self-deprecation jabs that I'm gonna take at myself. And with that, we will have our favorites like Hollow Knight and Stellar Blade on the convo. Yeah, we will, and maybe even try to predict gaming future. If retro is the replay rule of your games, then hit a like and press the subscribe. And if not, I totally understand if you don't. Then please comment it and try to convert this fool into your zone. Let's glitch into it, shall we? Let's crack open the nostalgia vault, shall we, and find the secret seasoning sauce that is the secret for every nostalgia that we are having. The main ingredient that it's like a train. These old school games, they're not only just the code, they're more like your portal to your kid self. And it was done when we used to play the games under the blanket and with a controller as a, a controller with a stick that was like a therapy session. Just take Super Mario Bros. Those jumps over the Goombas, they scream innocence, rainy Sundays, and zero responsibilities beyond not dying to a pit. Have you ever heard of nostalgic remembrance, a psychological term? Well, it's the lo-fi vibe of these memories or these games that trigger memory centers and gives us happy chemical vibes. And that is something quite rare in the modern games with why especially when they flex their high-tech techs. This is why when I dust off my IGI copy back in the days, right, good old days. So when I like dust off those copies, I'm playing for the nostalgia, the memory that I lived, my childhood that I had, not for the high tech high tech things. So it's more of a meaningful run, as from my perspective. It's not that the CRT glow is something that I prefer, but it's more about representing your nostalgia. Looking at your childhood self and applying the adult memories or adult judgments on your childhood self and relive the moment. The games like Prince of Persia from 80s, the rotoscoped animations one, yeah, that one especially. So they didn't need a high tech epic budget for anything. Like they didn't have Hollywood budget, and yet they were pure, unfiltered adventure that still lingers. And hyperrealism, it mimics life too closely, trying to immerse the trying to use the immense sorry not immerse immense strength of the current hardware to like give us the best quality that's possible, but living with a dated visual when the time is past for those hardware. Have you ever heard of tech envy? So it's basically you being envy of the guys that have a better tech than you while playing the game and capable of running the game a bit better than you are. Well, even if my GPU is quite better, but my GPU is a mobile lab GPU, so it cannot run in the more like same level as the non-mobile ones. So it's more like I feel the envy too. So whenever I played Hollow Knight or game as such, it's more like about the world that is hand drawn, not about the world that is so hyper realistic that it needs next gen tech. So it keeps us away from that tech envy. And to be frank, nostalgia sells pretty good. Actually, quite good. Well, that is why the Shovel Knights were selling millions of copies when they were revived. They were a type of comfort food for the gamers in the pixel form. Yet now, even faking it gets me teary a bit. But seriously, if you got any games that pulls you back into that nostalgia lane, please let me know in the comments. And for me, it would be definitely IGI, the specifically first one, because that was the first ever game I have ever played, except for Road Rash, of course, Road Rash. But IGI was the first game that pulled me to the gaming sphere, and whenever I just stop those old classics, I tear up. Hyper realistic or the even anime style gacha games that are coming out now. Well, they are nothing more than a grinding simulator, and the nostalgia they gives with flashy skins is quite fake and hollow. Even the realism they provide is quite hollow, in my opinion. There is no true recall back to the memory lane that we once lived. Well, this emotional bond that we have with the old games is the cause that they don't entertain. They resurrect the soul of that child that we once were. Well, let's talk a bit deeper, shall we? With a sprinkle of heavy philosophy. In countries like India, where philosophy meets the play, pixelated simplicity mirrors ancient storytelling. Minimal forms inviting infinite interpretation, much like folk tales that stick across the eras. No wonder sometimes gacha games get it right, because with their recent griefs, they tap into that small vein that is there for them without the hyper-realistic overpowering. Well, nostalgia does stick because why we use pixels, right? As in games, because we want to escape the pixel perfectness, and these pixels give us the imperfection that we need to escape the pixels. Have you ever considered yourself as one of the co-creators of the game? Because I consider myself in playing the old retro games because their pixels leave us with so much to interpret that we become one of the co-creators of the game by just imagining how the game makes logic, makes sense, how the world might look like even. Before anyone says it's not a bug, it's a feature, let me tell you another feature that every pixelated game has. Well, the pixelated pixels aren't just there to be a bug or a low res quality or a indie title thing. It's a very big feature because the just imagine Hollow Knight those dark caverns. It not only represents the vastness but the dread within the caverns. It shows us how large the caverns can be, the shadows. They explain us how big, how large a thing is. This is a perceptual completion that amps the emotional investment, which cannot be gained from imagine getting everything and nothing to imagine, like in hyper realistic ray traced games. So there is one more point that the hyper realistic games can overload your brain. Do you know why and how? Because simple. It's forcing you into so much detail in a single frame that your brain is overloaded with information, which in turn work against the memory lane or the emotional investment. Well, don't get me wrong, but Stellar Blade is a very stunning game, very stunning game. But the models in that game are might be gorgeous. Even I ranked them as gorgeous. But the thing is that that gorgeousness feels a bit distant because there's no room for the inner storyteller. There's no inner storytelling that could lead me, or that could guide me into thinking about the game after I stop playing. Science do dive in here. Cognitive studies reveal stylized visual enhances empathy and narrative absorption, as in Undertale's quirky pixels where flower cranes hides horrors you interpret personally. Now, consider Resident Evil remakes and the gore that is lifelike. But the thing is that it's very specific, very super specific, not soul deep. It's telling you and giving you everything that you need from your senses, that from your eyes, from your ears. It's leaving nothing for you to imagine. Just for the gacha players here, imagine Genshin's cel-shaded world and how it helps you to envision Teva's myths, blending Eastern philosophy with the gameplay. Way more immersive than a photorealistic game, right? I experimented with parkour on UE4 and also UE5. I hate UE5, by the way. Just a random rant, but regardless of that, when I tried and I realized something, the realization was that when it comes to a hyper realistic scenario, you're looking for that perfect jump, perfect footing, perfect foothold, perfect hand position, for perfect movement, and those other things. But when it comes to stylize, you're looking for a style, a gameplay style that is so vivid and so immersive that you forgot the perfection and start imagining the imperfection. Boom, boom, boom. Now it's an epic, right? But hyperreal, it's filled up with mad libs with no blanks, no room for imagination, just boring in some senses. People often report deeper connection with games like Celeste, where abstract pixels mirror mental struggles, inviting you to project your chaos into the climb. Why, you ask? Why the stylized I prefer and some people, and let's say everyone prefers? Well, it's not because the way of nostalgia always works, but stylized graphics lets you into a motion where you can imagine, and even if you are disconnected, it pulls you into the vibe of imagination. But when it's hyper realistic and the vibe is not set according to your needs or your thoughts or your psychology or your behaviors, you become disconnected from the game, and that is how you become someone that doesn't like the game. Older games trained generations to thrive on less. Let us consider this: Zelda's top down view and vision. It's less imagination on the screen and more imagination inside your head, giving us a lifelong of imaginations and creativity. If I have to choose from the modern gaming sphere, I would definitely choose Lies of P, because it's one of my favorites from recent memory, because it's one of the classics where you can literally evoke Pinocchio. What else do you need? It taps into that emotional bond of Pinocchio that we have from our childhood, right? And plus, I love the game. Just I love the game. Playing as a puppet and being a puppet and the steampunk environment. Those are my favorites, by the way. So I'm a bit biased. Worst part of hyperrealistic graphics is that it makes the story suffer. Maybe through budget, maybe through the frame drop-offs, but it makes it suffer in a way that we cannot enjoy the story to a point where we can imagine the future or the past or the what is happening right now or find our own clues. Let's do some philosophy in this way in here, shall we? If imagination is the spark, pixels are the fan, and hyperrealism just figures it out. The third pillar might be the timelessness. This is why the pixelated graphics laugh at the father time while hyperrealism wrinkles over time. These games aren't linked to any hardware dependency. They are simple and quite fun. For example, Pac-Man or Tetris still plays like buttery smooth on any hardware. Stylized modern classics like Ori or Blind Forest use ethereal lines that age like fine wine, and also focusing on the atmosphere over assets that obsolete fast. Well, do you know what makes masters current? It is the amount of tech they use. More the tech they use, the more the chances of glitches or bugs to be in the game. Take the example of Cyberpunk 2077's launch date, the bugs. That is how the tech is devolving the game. While chasing trends from pixels to Hollywood quality, games has lost their abstract essence, that elegant loop over endless upgrades. In my own experience as developing while developing, but the thing is that stylized graphics feels more natural at this point because of the way they look and the lo-fi vibe they give. But hyper-realistic always needs tweaking. Like there are endless tweaks to be made just so that the hyper-realistic looks good. The retro edge, it prioritizes core fun. Sonic's speedrun in 2D pixels, timeless because the rush is in visual fluff. When it comes to constant wow moments, they are no longer a wow moment anymore. They are just normal things to do. And the hyper-realistic games uses that wow moment a bit too much, because of which players are looking for something new and not new but something that gives them that feel of achievement. Take Cuphead's rubber hose style in 1930s nod in pixels, outlasting hyper-realistic flops by being deliberate, not derivative. Culturally, it mirrors the timeless myths, minimal forms of endure, like epic stylized for ages, not like photorealized. I somewhere read something. Youth is for the pixels and for photorealism. By the sequel, it would have a retirement home. Timelessness boosts replayability. Hollow Knight, for example, world beckons yearly, pixel whispering secrets anew. But hyperrealism, they are often one and done. They are like stealing the spotlight from the substance. This endurance cements impact. Old games shape culture, inspiring indies that blend retro with fresh. From a creator's lens, pixel and stylized art democratizes dreams, letting solos like me focus on mechanics over money pits. Progress demands fewer resources, so Toby Fox butted Undertale's genius on shoestring, pixels amplifying the meta magic. And hyperrealism, it has swarms of artists and AI assets and many more, and a budget that just keeps inflating, and birthing behemoths that are mostly abandoned after the prologue. Old games mastered the minimalism. Zelda's puzzle wove the code not with cycles. Today's renaissance, stylized indies like Hades fuse myth with pixels, drawing philosophy fans into Greek lore without realism's baggage. Stellar Blade is already an eternalized game, but stylized games can eternalize the action, but hyperrealism dates quickly. Philosophically, this sustains creators. Freedom breeds innovation, hooking players for long term. Even in the world of gacha, summons are mythicalized so that people can breathe into the mystery of the things. But realism, it only starts selling skins. I, as a person who is interested in Unreal Engine 4, well, let's just say I prefer stylized over realism and endless pixels. Sorry, not pixels, polys. It's a win for the creators, fueling a wave where retro informs future hits. Pixels and stylization dominate the impact via nostalgia embrace, imagination spark, and timeless grace, and creator empowerment, where hyperrealism dazzles briefly but fades fast. I am being bold and making a prediction. By 2030, Stylized will surge with AI-aided pixels, reviving old mechanics anew with new wrappers. Think there is a new Prince of Persia and gacha games with philosophical twists. And hyperrealism, niche but slim, but emotions stay stylized. So, my friends, what's your take? Pixel sponge or hyper hype? Comment your gut answer game below. If you want to subscribe, I would be thankful, and expect Psyche-Pack gaming and descriptions and psychology of it, with sprinkle of philosophy and science. So, keep it blocky, stay hollow-hearted, and catch your next glitch.